Yes, welcome everybody to the SolarWinds Hybrid Cloud Observability session today with myself, Glenn Kershaw, and I'll introduce the panel shortly. I just wanted to say that from my perspective, I think this is, for me, the single biggest change that SolarWinds have made, and certainly for me, the most excited I am with where it's going and how we're getting to the full stack hybrid observability. So really keen to see what we hear from Michal and Greg today. So myself, Glenn Kershaw, Director of Sales here from MIA and APJ. I've been working with SolarWinds now for 21 years. So as I said, being the single biggest change, I've seen many changes over those years. But I think what this can now bring to our clients is phenomenal. So really keen to see what comes out for the next presentation, and really keen to speak to some of the clients on the call, of which I've seen many of the names that I recognize and a couple of new ones. So looking forward to catching up with you. On the call today, we have Greg Forsyth, who's our Principal Solutions Strategist at Loop One, and Michal Halpin, who is the Solutions Architect at SolarWinds. So Greg, do you want to just do a quick introduction?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm a solutions strategist with Loop One. Come from a technical background with SolarWinds and many other monitoring tools, and done most of the monitoring roles within the industry as well. So yeah, here to share some insight into hybrid cloud observability.
Thanks, Greg. And Michal?
Hi, I'm Michal Halpin. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect in SolarWinds, so I need to update my little logo in the top corner here. I've been with SolarWinds for about 10 years, but prior to that, then I had another 10 years in industry working in a variety of different, I suppose, customer roles at this stage. But sysadmin, I did some development stuff, networking. So a jack of all trades.
Yeah, I think you undersell yourself there a bit, Michal, but we'll see with the presentation the knowledge that you have. So yeah, thank you. As I said earlier, many of you on the call will know Loop One and are aware of Loop One. Similar to your issue there, Michal, with your slide. This slide here was put together for the American office because it has the 12+ years as a SolarWinds authorized partner. But here in the EMEA team, myself based out of our Cirencester office, we have over 20 years experience with SolarWinds. Over 25 certified engineers with over 130 plus certifications, and have done over 4,500. Again, I think this slide needs to probably be refreshed, because I think we're probably over the 5,000 mark now with the engagements that we've done globally. 100 employees across 4 continents in over sort of 5 territories. Our head office is North America, based out of Texas, and our office here is the UK EMEA office in Cirencester, offices in Ireland, Germany, and Sri Lanka. We have such a loyal team of engineers, as you can see, with over 7 years experience. So a really experienced, trusted, loyal team of engineers on hand. But again, don't just take our word for it. As you can see on the top right hand side, we have 3 partner awards that we were able to pick up in this year's award ceremony, with the North American team having a personal achievement award for the work that Bill Fitzpatrick has done evangelizing SolarWinds in the region, and excellence in enablement. So again, going down to the level of professional services that we offer as an organization, again based out of the North American office, but covering the global team. And for the EMEA team, we had the Partner of the Year. So again, really pleased to take that, accept that award on behalf of Loop One. Just shows all the hard work that we're doing to bring the message to the team, or to our clients, sorry. Which quickly brings us to poll 2, and just a quick one on that. The polls here really just help us set the scene of who we're talking to. Again, in many cases, Greg or Michal will then turn or switch tact depending on the clients that we have on the call. So again, I believe that poll should have just started. So we've got that there for a minute. So if you're able to just do that poll, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, that poll's open. Looks like it's actually working for once as well, which is amazing.
There we go. Thank you, Helen. So I guess whilst that poll's happening in the background, we can hand over to Michal, and then just as Michal's starting, he'll have the slide information, or the poll information. But prior to that, the SolarWinds Hybrid Cloud Observability is designed to help you. I don't want to talk to the slide, so happily for you to read that. But as I said on this presentation here, we will show you how you get the most out of that, what Hybrid Cloud Observability is about, the business benefits, and following on from that, how Loop One can help you. At the moment, SolarWinds, as you all are aware, have your typical on-prem solution. We'll talk to you and work through the best processes to get you to the Hybrid Cloud Observability. And again, as Helen said, please make use of any of the questions you have, ask throughout, and Michal, Greg, myself will answer them when we can.
Super, thanks, Glenn. So what we're going to cover off today is firstly the logic behind SolarWinds moving to observability, the rationale coming from our customer base that's driving this approach. Then we're going to talk through what hybrid cloud observability is and where it fits in with the future plans we have as well. So looking at some of the other cloud monitoring we're doing, connections between those. Then we're going to focus on what is HCO and how does that map to the existing portfolio? Where exactly do the various levels line up? And I'll go through then some of the additional features with the various HCO options. So the added benefits you'd have from moving into hybrid cloud observability. So Glenn, if you could just move on to the next slide, please. Now the rationale for us, oh yeah, sorry, next one, there we go. The rationale for us switching from monitoring to HCO is coming from digital transformation. And we can see this in particular in the past number of years. IT, the digital world is moving quite quickly and it's gathering momentum. And there's a lot of new opportunities out there for organizations. So the ability to modernize applications and databases that are used within operations themselves. Leveraging the cloud. So whether it's AWS, whether it's Azure, whether it's a different cloud vendor, maybe Google. The flexibility that utilizing public cloud offers for customers is huge. Whether it's simply to free up resources internally from a person perspective, moving to an OpEx type budget as opposed to CapEx, the ability to very quickly deploy services, whether it's for production, whether it's just test or QA. The cloud is giving a lot of opportunities for organizations to revolutionize. And in the past couple of years, the move to remote work in particular, especially for employees, has been a huge benefit. But all of these also bring challenges. So cloud is similar to virtualization. While at certain levels it really simplifies things and it speeds things up, it also leads to complexity. It also leads to security challenges and some even productivity challenges. So because customers are used to doing things the same way for a number of years, switching to a new style of IT can be quite a challenge. And obviously moving to a public cloud, there are some security issues around that. Again, if you look at any of the Amazon or Azure certifications, security is quite at the forefront of everything, and as it should be. But it is a little bit harder than just having one box running one application sitting in the corner of a data center. With all of this digital transformation, it doesn't necessarily mean that IT budgets are increasing. A lot of IT budgets are fairly flat. So from a business perspective, there is this expectation that not only will existing services be provided, but new services can be provisioned, and not just provisioned, but provisioned rapidly. This is quite a strain on these budgets already. And even for the staff, again, for the IT staff doing this, it's one thing to migrate to the cloud, but if you're also trying to maintain the existing infrastructure, that's quite a challenge. So both from a personnel perspective, from a resource perspective, we see bottlenecks here. We also see that SLA's uptime is critical to businesses now. Because businesses rely so much on IT, any downtime at all can end up costing thousands, tens of thousands, millions per hour in downtime. So having SLAs around both the services you're providing internally, but also the SLAs that you need to consume services from outside resources, these are quite important. And these are big challenges for every organization, regardless of the size. So with this, what SolarWinds wants to do is to evolve into an observability portfolio, to become a leader in the observability space. So Glenn, if you could move on to the next slide, please. And what we've been working on is a solution that's going to enable a number of factors here. So the first one is rapid time to value. Again, for our existing customers, one of the reasons SolarWinds has been so popular over the years, it's not a product, it's not a solution that's going to take weeks or months to start seeing value. A lot of customers will deploy a trial in a few hours and straight away start seeing information in their environment they weren't aware of. So the new approach from SolarWinds, the HCO offering, is going to build on that. You know, once you deploy it, you're going to start seeing important value straight away. We're going to start focusing more on SLAs, focusing more on KPIs for businesses. So instead of just looking at technical metrics, let's start to begin to tie this in with what's important to the business to function. Because ultimately, that's what IT is there to do, to provide services to the business. We want to enable faster mean time to resolution. So not just to say, oh, there is an issue. How do we start to narrow down the focus for where that issue is? So not only what is the issue, but why is it an issue? So again, a big focus for what we're doing with HCO, with observability. Alert fatigue mitigation. Quite simply, if you're receiving 1,000 emails a day from your monitoring system, from your observability system, nobody is going to be able to focus in on that. I know when I was a customer, if I was receiving more than 20 emails a day from something, I was probably going to create an alert and just send it to a folder in my Outlook and just have it be marked as read. So if you have too much alert noise, there's zero value in it. If you don't have alerts being generated, there's zero value in it. So it's trying to find that balance in between. And again, this is a big focus for SolarWinds with HCO. How do we start to tailor the alerting to actually to become intelligent, to actually cluster different types of alerts together so we can see where the root causes are for particular issues. Productivity and agility. So again, how do we enable organizations to faster deploy the resources that they need, to have the observability in place that's going to help them meet their SLAs, to be productive? How do we free up time from valuable IT operators? So whether those are sysadmins, network engineers, database admins, instead of doing the day-to-day minutia, can we help automate some of that? Can we reduce the amount of time, again, back to the MTTR, that they spend troubleshooting things so they can focus on more strategic, valuable actions. So the HCO offering we're looking at is designed for hybrid and for multi-cloud. Now, HCO does not mean you have to deploy it in the cloud. You can easily deploy this on-prem to monitor your on-prem infrastructure, but you can deploy it in the cloud as IaaS. You can use it, whether it's hosted on-prem or in the cloud, to monitor on-prem or in the cloud. So we just want to get the flexibility of that deployment model across. We want to focus on modernization for apps and databases. So again, not just looking now at your traditional RDBMSs, not just to focus on your traditional n-tier applications. Let's start focusing on things like containers. Let's look at microservices. We want this to be a future-proof foundation. So as your journey through digital transformation evolves, SolarWinds want to evolve with you. So this is going to be the framework that will then build future observability functionality on top of. Again, whether it's all on-prem, whether it's in the cloud, whether it's a combination. We'll look at machine learning and AI ops. So tying in with alert fatigue. Can we start to do machine learning on the alerts that are being generated to actually say, let's go beyond just setting thresholds here. Let's look at when this alert triggers, we see these other alert triggers later on. Maybe if we tune these thresholds, we're going to reduce the amount of alerts by 80%. Let's look at the seasonality of data. So what happens on Sunday is different to what happens on Monday. What happens at 9 a.m. when everybody logs in could be a different workload on the system to 9 p.m. when it's just the night shift. We're also going to focus on things like open standards. And again, within SolarWinds, we want to simplify things, not just from a customer experience, but from a user experience. So how do we simplify installing and managing what you have? So Glenn, if you can move on to the next slide. And this is just a framework here to help you understand where you are on your digital transformation journey. And again, I've worked with customers at all levels of the spectrum here. But regardless of where you sit, SolarWinds wants to be in a position to help. So are you a traditional data center type deployment? Is everything you're monitoring on-prem? And is your infrastructure for monitoring that on-prem? Or are you more cloud enabled? So do you have a lot of stuff on-prem, but you've started to move some workloads into the cloud? You've started to build new applications in the cloud while still maintaining most of it on-prem. So that's the cloud enabled aspect. Or are we looking at a more cloud modernized? So you still have some stuff on-prem, but now your focus is let's be cloud first. Let's build everything new that we need to in the cloud, and let's start to migrate across. Are you also looking at multi-cloud? So again, maybe you're leveraging some functionalities from AWS, but then other functionalities from Azure. So maybe you have your Microsoft agreements that allow you to utilize certain resources, maybe your Office 365 as well, but you want to leverage some streaming functionality in AWS. So not only do you have on-prem, but you have the multi-cloud aspect to consider. Or perhaps you're just fully in the cloud. Everything you run is hosted in public cloud. You're fully decentralized. Your focus is not on traditional Enter applications. Again, let's look at microservices. Let's look at containers, the ability to spin up and spin down services in the cloud rapidly. And because of this, you just want to have your observability platform hosted in the cloud as well. It's one less thing for you to have to maintain. So regardless of where you are in the spectrum, SolarWinds wants to be there along the way. What we're going to focus on today are the first three pillars: the data center, cloud enabled, cloud modernized. Glenn, if you can move on to the next slide. But on the cloud native slide, sorry, on the cloud native point, we are working to move into that area as well. And what we're seeing on-prem is how SolarWinds sees us evolving into the observability space. So on the left-hand side, we have your traditional SolarWinds monitoring. So these are your point products like the network performance monitor, the server and application monitor, maybe database performance analyzer, SEM. What we're going to focus in on today is the evolution of these Orion products into a platform called, or into a product called Hybrid Cloud Observability. And Hybrid Cloud Observability, as I touched on, can be fully deployed on-prem, or it can be hosted in IaaS. And again, you can use it to monitor on-prem or IaaS. The platform this is built on is now called the SolarWinds platform. So the Orion platform that the previous point modules were built on is evolving into a SolarWinds platform. On the right-hand side, we can see something called observability, or SWO for the abbreviation on that side. And that's going to be a fully hosted SaaS offering on observability. So we'll see later on, the HCO offering is built on Orion, the Orion products, and those products are still going to be here, by the way. As we step into it, we're going to see that we're not getting rid of the products that you know and love. Those will still be there. This is just an alternative offering. This is a way for you to migrate into a more future-proof version of observability.
So on that, Michal, does that mean that the customers on the call at the moment that are typical Orion, as you said, the Orion platform, they will then become the SolarWinds platform, and that's a tool that they will use moving forward if they stay as they are, for example?
Correct. So the next releases, we'll see Orion starting to migrate over to a SolarWinds platform. And there's actually a very good, if you look on TWAC, on the Orion product forum, the latest blog post by Tony Johnson, one of our PMs, goes through what this SolarWinds platform is. So what we want to do is, and a lot of this is under the hood, as the Americans would say. A lot of this is under the covers. You won't see some of these changes immediately. So a lot of these are back into code changes to reduce the complexity in the code, to reduce the amount of code repositories that we have to work with. So when we go to release new functionality, it's much faster for us. You know, even things like building the software itself, instead of taking days, we can now build new versions in hours. So for us to start iterating on new versions, new functionality, whether it's the new HCO offering or whether it's your traditional Orion products, this is going to enable faster development of these. It's also going to be more secure because we'll have less moving parts. There's obviously a smaller footprint for security issues. So for
I think that, sorry, I just said, I think that makes sense to me then. So most customers who are where they are can stay where they are. They won't notice any of the changes. It'll just be no longer sort of talk to as the Orion platform. It'll be the SolarWinds platform. We then have the ability to take customers to HCO, which is here and now, and it's just the SWO which will be the full offering, which isn't here just yet. Okay, thank you.
Correct. And the idea here is we're not going to force anybody to move to the cloud. That's the first thing. This is to go along with your journey. There are advantages, even if you're not moving to the cloud, to going from, again, traditional Orion modules into HCO, and we'll touch on those, I think, on the next slide as well. But from an observability perspective, so the SWO offering, the as a service offering, that's going to be hosted by SolarWinds in the cloud. And the focus there is going to be primarily monitoring public cloud, but again, that will also have the ability to monitor on-prem as well. And then to connect both of these later on, we'll have cloud connected functionality. So that will give you one dashboard where you'll see all of your infrastructure, whether it's being monitored by the SWO, whether it's being monitored by HCO. The cloud connected functionality will join those two deployments together. And that will also enable the AIOps machine learning functionality. So looking at the polling data to make your alerts more intelligent, to actually going from being reactive into more proactive to becoming predictive, and eventually having recommendations enabled. So that's the plan. That's where we're going. And when I say it's the plan, we already have HCO released, and we're already working on the cloud connected functionality and the SWO functionality. And when I say we're working on them, there are versions internally already being developed. Later on this year, you will see these being released to the public. So Glenn, if you can move on to the next slide, please. And what I want to just touch on here are some of the advantages that we're going to have with HCO. Now, I'm not going to go into every point here, but for existing customers, one of the first things you're going to notice is the licensing model will change. So again, we've listened to customers. We know that when you have multiple SolarWinds products, trying to determine the licensing can be a challenge at times, especially if you have n number of products. It's generally n number of licensing models that you have to work with. We're changing that with HCO. So this is going to node-based licensing. And we'll see in the next slide, there's two flavors of HCO. There's Essentials and Advanced. So you pick the type of functionality you want, then tell us the node count, and from there it's a subscription license. So it's very, very simple to move up or down annually based on those licensors. Whether it's a router, whether it's a switch, it doesn't matter what you're at monitoring on those. Whether we're looking at servers or APIs, it's just node-based licensing. So very, very simple to calculate, especially, sorry, 1 second. So especially for larger deployments where you require a lot of flexibility. One of the things we will see with HCO is the fact that the instances can actually be split. So previously you had to know in advance how many nodes or how many licenses you needed per what was an Orion server. With HCO, here's your total license count. You'll then be able to split them maybe for different geographical reasons, for different business reasons as you need to. Because we're changing how it's licensed, it'll mean that the modules themselves or the offerings themselves, Essentials and Advanced, will have wider visibility than point products. So you no longer have to pick and choose and make the internal business cases to say, I need this functionality from UDT and this one from NCM and this one from NTA and here's IPAM. And it's just what type of functionality do you need overall? So it's a very simple value proposition on that side. And the more you're monitoring, obviously, the more likely you are to get to root cause, the quicker you're going to be to reduce your MTTR. With HCO, we'll also be able to plug into the AIOps functionality. Again, that's being worked on. So that AIOps functionality will work with both the SWO offering and with the HCO offering. And the Cloud Connect functionality is going to drive that. So the ability to connect both the existing HCO offering and the SaaS offering we're working on, have those pulled together in one view. It's going to be a big part for us. I'm sure you've heard of the Secure by Design initiative from SolarWinds that we've been working on. That's ongoing. That's now part of our DNA. It's so intrinsic we don't even think about it anymore. So everything we do, whether it's releasing new functionality, whether it's refactoring existing work, security is the #1 driver for all of that. So Glenn, if you can move on to the next slide, please. And on this slide, what I want to do here is just map the existing SolarWinds products to what's in Essentials and what's in Advanced. The easiest way to think about it, at least from my perspective, is Essentials is focused more on monitoring, and Advanced is focused more on flow analysis, virtualization, management, configuration, monitoring, and management. So within HCO Essentials, you would have NPM functionality, SAM functionality, log analyzer, IPAM, UDT, and VNQM. So, and again, the licensing here, it's per node, it's tiered. It starts off at 25 and it goes up. So you don't have to be a multinational with 20,000 or 50,000 nodes to benefit from this. Customers of all sizes are able to benefit from these. But this view is just to help you map what your existing deployments might look like into what the HCO offerings are. One of the biggest things here as well with HCO Essentials, you will also have access to the Orion remote collectors. Now, previously, these were only available in the Network Automation Manager or in SAM node-based licensing. And if you're not familiar with them, the remote collectors, or ORCs, are essentially a mini poller. It's the ability to do polling from a machine with an agent deployed. So you don't need a full Windows server with a database, connected directly to a database to host this. This could be deployed on a small workstation in an office, maybe to monitor a couple of switches and a printer. So it gives a lot of flexibility for distributed deployments, especially if you have a lot of smaller offices where you've overlapping IP addresses. These ORCs or ORCs are going to give a lot of flexibility. Now, if you switch over to advanced, you get all of this functionality plus what was Virtualization Manager, Server Configuration Monitor, Network Configuration Manager, and the NetFlow Traffic Analyzer. And that's obviously going to enable all of the additional functionality that you would see in things like NetPath. You know, NetPath ships with NPM, but if you have NCM and NTA, it'll tie those together. The same with the HCO Advanced. Same things with PerfSec. You'll see your applications, your servers, hypervisors, data stores, all of those are going to be available within HCO Advanced, as well as the additional mapping functionalities, again, picking up from your virtualization manager, for example. So those are the two offerings, Essentials and Advanced. And as we bring out new versions, so later on, more functionality will become available as well. Now, again, that's not to say that we're stopping work on the existing Orion landscape. You know, those modules that you have, that you own, those are still going to be developed as well. But over time, you'll start to see a divergence between the HCO offerings and the Orion products. They will start to diverge a bit. So some of the things like machine learning and AI apps, for example, those will be focused on HCO. So you have two offerings, Essentials and Advanced. And then for larger customers, so if you've more than 500 nodes, we have what's called Enterprise Scale Edition, or ESE. And ESE is essentially all you can eat polling engines, all you can eat additional web servers, all you can eat HA. It includes Enterprise Operations Console. So again, if you have a license for 1,000 nodes, you might actually want to split that into two 500 node deployments, and then have EOC connect those. And then within each of those, you can have however many polling engines you want. You can have HA for those additional web servers. They're all included in the price. Massive value here as well is Premier support. So if you do contact SolarWinds, you'll now be through to the Premier support team. So as part of the enterprise scale offering, you'll have SLGs, you'll have access to more senior reps. So again, for enterprise customers, we listen to what did customers want. They didn't want to have to keep going back to SolarWinds in 2 years' time or 3 years' time saying, hey, we need another 3 polling engines and we don't have budget this year for HA, we might get it next year. Now it's just all there. So whether you have 500 nodes or 1,000 or 5,000, you're not restricted to what amount of scalability engines you need on that side. Also important here as well, lab licenses. So you don't even have to budget for a new lab license now. That's included with the enterprise scale offering. So you can test any changes before you roll them out to production. Any new updates, any reports or alerts that you want to work on, you'll have a lab license offering to step through those. Now, Glenn, if you can just move on, and I'm not going to spend I'm going to focus on the next 2 slides and then I'm going to start wrapping it up towards the end. But so why would you move from the Orion modules to HCO? And Glenn, if you can move on to the next slide. There are a number of points here, and I'm not going to go into each one because I've touched on a lot of these already. But if we look at it from 2 perspectives, the user perspective and then the customer perspective. The user perspective is the person logging on to HCO every day. So it's the IT professional whose job it is to manage and monitor the infrastructure. What we want to do is give more visibility into the environment. We want to look at as broad a spectrum as possible as to what's going on. and HCO helps to enable that, because it's no longer point modules that you have to argue for. It's essentials or advanced, so very simple. It also gives a lot more flexibility again on the deployment side. So for larger customers, they might have a node count, but they might not know in advance how the deployment is going to look. So whether they're going to have a centralized deployment, they're going to have a distributed deployment, whether they'll need polling engines or orcs, that's now all going to be taken away with the enterprise scale option. From a customer perspective, and the difference here, the customer is looking at, I suppose, the non-technical side of things. So this could be the IT manager or director, it could be purchasing, whoever is interacting with SolarWinds on the commercial side. Instead of trying to figure out licensing for N number of products for X number of deployments, just what's the node count? So it's one line item. You don't have to keep trying to factor in growth over the years and figuring out exactly how many scalability engines are needed. Do you have to trade off high availability for additional scale? Again, one line item and especially with the ESE option, you're going to have everything you need on that side. And again, the orcs, for customers where they have, especially distributed deployments with smaller networks, we're now given that functionality that was previously before only for our more enterprise customers with the NAM offering or with the SAM offering. So a very flexible way to monitor across the environment. The last slide I want to touch on, Glenn, if you move on to this one, and I have a few more slides, but I'm kind of trying to skip through those, just conscious of time here. Again, on the enterprise scale option, and I've covered through some of this, coming from enterprise customers wanting to have Premier support included. So that's now part of the enterprise scale. Again, it's not a separate line item. It's not something you have to make a different business case for internally. If you want to improve the performance of your your Orion servers, even as they are, additional web servers are quite cheap, but now they're just again included, so you don't have to make a case to go back for them. To scale out for remote sites, or just purely for scale, for density of what you're monitoring, the additional polling engines, and they're all you can eat with ESE. Same thing with high availability. Whether it's your main server, whether it's your additional polling engines. If you have EOC deployed to connect to multiple Orion deployments, HCO deployments, the HA can also be deployed to EOC. So now you'll have a highly available dashboard into your global deployment. And as we touched on, the lab licensing, the ability to actually make changes without having to download a trial version for 30 days. So to have a subset of your infrastructure being monitored, test new updates on it, test changes to things like alerts or reports before you roll them out into production, that's now included as well. So Glenn, there's 2 more slides on the business side. I'm not going to go through those. I think we've kind of spoken through those at high level. So if you want to just skip through the next 3 slides, and there's a thank you slide. So, okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Michal. Obviously, there's a couple of questions that have come through, so we'll get through those into the Q&A section. So we'll speak to you again shortly. But thank you very much, Michal. So I guess over from a Loop One perspective, how do we get you there? How do we assist you? What value add can Loop One bring to the journey to HCO and full stack hybrid observability? So these are some of the services that the Loop One offer. So starting with our rapid report card, any of the clients on the call who hasn't had that, I'm sure you should book in and have that done. But I guess a question for you, Greg, what would a client typically get from a rapid report card? Why would they look to do that with Loop One?
I mean, often we see that that many clients are at a state where they've configured some generic monitoring, they've built some dashboards, enabled a load of alerts, but they're not getting that real value, that real output out of the monitoring that was envisioned initially. With the rapid report card, we can help dig into how you're using the platform, help you understand what you want to achieve and help us understand your business goals, your monitoring challenges, your monitoring goals as well. And that allows us to work with you and partner with you to build out a report that gives you insight into where you are and helps drive that roadmap to optimization of your platform and your solution. So we can really give a lot of value. Every client that I've worked with has come out of that saying, you know, look, there's so much value in this service, and we see platforms grow and grow to get to where they want to be. Now, in terms of the observability, that helps us understand where you are now and how we can help you reach to that observability platform that we want to move to. So yeah, jumping on the RRC is something that I would advise to anybody using SolarWinds. It's a huge value, and it's complementary to you.
And typically only takes sort of 2 hours out of the client's day, so that's a good thing. And following on from there, customers can then choose to go down the route that we've advised them themselves, right? Or we can assist them through our professional services or our managed services. With regards to the health check, what really would be the fundamental differences between that and a rapid report card, for example? Because the health check is a paid service and is a 3-day exercise.
Yeah, I mean, with the health check, we'll spend a lot more time digging down into the individual aspects of the platform, individual errors, individual advisories that we can identify. On top of that, you're going to get a certified secure Orion badge, so we can understand, you know, and verify that your platform is as secure as it possibly can be. You also, I mean, with the time that you spend that this takes, we'll get a lot more data out of there. We'll do a lot more checks on your platform. We'll do a lot more checks on each individual component that we've got set up, and reports, alerts, etc. So as the rapid report card sits at a higher level, the health check drills down even further into that.
Fantastic. And leaving the last grid there is the ITOM Lite and the ITOM Plus, which is our full managed offering. So we can take the pain and the strain from clients to assist them with the monitoring of their SolarWinds solution, and there it's part of our Lime services, which means our Loop 1 maturity model. So you'll see a lot of the Lime services there. So are you able to just talk to the Lime services piece quickly?
Yeah, I mean, live services are really what help build effective and you know, worthwhile strategies within your organization. Putting a platform in is never really going to solve any issues, and it's not bringing a real solution. We need the people and the process, and adoption of Lime gives us that people and process part of it. Integration with your organization, with IT operations and with business operations, to help getting the most out of your platform and getting, you know, business sort of data-driven business decisions out of the content of your platform. So Lime really drives forward that success, the integration, the adoption into different areas of the business, which really drives success, reduces that mean time to resolution, and increases that service visibility.
And the Lime services isn't just SolarWinds, right? Because we'll have many clients that have other third-party products that they want to integrate with. So I know one that's hot on topic at the moment is integrating with ServiceNow, for example.
Yeah, integrating with ServiceNow, getting that visibility into your ITSM tools of what's going on in your alerting just allows for streamlined identification of issues. Again, quicker time to mean time to resolution. But it also takes away the admin side, that if I've got my techies working with the monitoring and getting the resolution resolved, the last thing I want them to do is be spending time writing tickets, which I can get automation done through my monitoring tool, working with things like ServiceNow or any other ITSM tool, really. We can build in that automation that logs tickets, updates tickets, and closes tickets to make sure we've got that visibility and auditability of each alert that comes through. And that helps bring into things like problem management, where we can start getting problem managers to identify, you know, trends in flapping nodes or components that might help drive, you know, data-driven business decisions again to resolve and spend the time and effort on the platforms that require additional work.
Fantastic. And the slide here really just highlights some of the main areas that we would typically do a traditional professional services engagement around the deployment, optimization, customization, and development. But again, I think these 4 points are still pivotal for enabling customers to move down that journey through hybrid cloud to hybrid cloud observability, right? So I think having the understanding of these allows us to inform and work with the client on that journey.
Exactly that.
Fantastic. So we've touched on Lime, but again, as Greg said, this will give us the ability to cover off the IT operations management tools. And again, it doesn't have to be SolarWinds. If you've got other third-party tools in there, we can work with you to ensure that you're fully optimized and you are getting the most out of your people and out of your tools.
Yeah, we also use Lime to get you on that proactive state. It's obviously something that's talked about and really not achieved as much as it's talked about. We want to move away from using a monitoring tool to be reactive and tell us when something is broken. At that point, we've already impacted our users. We've already caused an outage. Yes, we can identify the problem and fix it, but we want to be on a more proactive approach where we can understand, what is going to cause something to break. Observability gives us that full stack visibility into understanding, all the components, which we can start using to see bottlenecks and things to help trigger responses before something breaks. Identifying when performance counters are higher that are affecting IOPS on another server that's potentially going to lead to a drive filling up. We can identify that early and get that resolved, which puts everyone in a much better position to reduce the amount of outages and reduce that time to resolution.
Yeah, and I guess part of the Lime as the monitoring maturity calculator that you can see on the screen there, this is a quick 21 question, 5-minute poll for clients to see where they are. But I guess from your standpoint, Greg, and the engineers, it's how we get customers from ad hoc to insightful, from not knowing where they are, distributed, but fragmented, to a typical deployment, and through optimized to insightful. So what are some of the steps that we would typically do to get the client to that journey?
I mean, there's a few steps involved. There's configuration, obviously. Getting the configuration right, understanding the right components and monitors that we need to have. But on top of that, help them understand the process, the workflows, the rules of engagement that will help bring that typical deployment to something that's really insightful. Working with all of the silos that exist within IT and meshing those together. So we keep the silos with the expert knowledge. But we help integrate together to bring all that data source together and understand a service at a much bigger, more complex level. Then use SolarWinds to make that complexity easy to digest.
Yeah, good point. I remember recently being at an event where a lot of customers were talking sort of silos, and people think silos aren't good because there's no communication. But I think the point you make there is the fact that it's mesh. If there's communication between the silos, it doesn't hurt to have a specialist in that arena. But as long as they know what the other silos are doing, they can then have that ability to communicate and have the happy outcome.
That's right.
Thank you for that, Greg. Just some further piece there that the Loop One bring to your SolarWinds journey is the renewals piece. So most of the customers on the call here will be aware of what we offer. We also have now a new enhanced offering, which really builds in some powerful value add elements. So anything from managed service hours to call off hours. If you're having any issues with any reports or any problems, our engineers can engage with you to cover that off, to training classes that are built in. It depends on the size of your SolarWinds renewal to what level of hours and classes you get. But certainly speak to your account manager today around the enhanced package to elevate your current renewal to the maximum, or to get more gain from your SolarWinds renewals. Again, training, I'm not sure how many of you are aware of that, but we do have a comprehensive training package, our flagship course being the Orion 101, 201 and 301 series. But again, we do have a lot of other courses that are specialists into the security event manager, web help desk, NCM compliance, or if any of the clients on the call here are looking to take their SCP, which is a SolarWinds Certified Professional exam. We have prep exams covering NPM, NTA, NCM, SAM, and ARM. And again, these are, majority of them can be virtual, but some of them can be classroom. So again, just check with your engineer. And obviously customized training. We do a lot of bespoke courses for clients where we can go to your location or remotely. We can do a bespoke course with your team. Oh, we have the moniker again. So again, what we have here, following on from today, as a thank you, if any of you are able or can book in the meeting with your account manager and one of the SolarWinds team, you will have a free monocular sent out and shipped to you. That is one monocular per client, so I guess it's a first come. So if we have 2 or 3 people from one client on the call here, I would rush and get it booked in because it'll get sent to you. But no, we've had these from SolarWinds, so they are really quite funky pieces of kit. So yeah, again, just reach out to your account manager, and yeah, once that meeting takes place, you'll have this sent out in the post to you. Also, a Just Eat voucher. So anyone who has attended today for the duration will have a £20 Just Eat voucher sent out to them via email from Helen and the team. So that's a thank you for that. We have had a few questions come in. So if I quickly go through those, I think we've still got a few minutes left. One of them here, Michal, I think is one that I can probably answer, but just if you can assist just in case. So having invested heavily into the Orion platform over the years, what recognition is there of the investment that's happened when moving forward to HCO, or do we effectively end up buying it all again as now a subscription-based model? So from my understanding, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, there is almost like a buyback discount effectively. So it will take a credit against your system, which will then be deducted for the first year of your subscription. Hopefully I've answered that correctly.
Correct. So basically our renewals team work with you to see what your renewal value is, and there's a formula then that gets worked so that each customer is probably going to be different. But yeah, what you've invested is obviously taken into account when switching over to HCO. So yeah, there's definitely recognition on that side.
Fantastic. And another question, node-based licensing. Would there be an option for unlimited node license for companies that is always adding new nodes to the platform? Now, I'm not aware that there is an unlimited, but you can ultimately just keep adding nodes. So yeah, do you know anything more than I do?
Correct. There won't be an unlimited. Unlimited is it's a word we're trying to move away from.
but I think that the scaling is quite good. I mean, if you look, there's a 7,500, 10,000, so on and so forth. So there are certainly some higher node counts as they scale, right?
Oh, like yeah, we're working out with customers that are significantly larger than anything we've been able to size before, because now we can just do a blanket. What's the total node count? And then that can be assigned out as needed. So, you can have multiple deployments with EOC. Some of our MSP customers, they like the fact that it's per node licensing. So it's very easy to do the calculations. How much is it going to cost for each new node we onboard into the system, without having to try to factor in interface count for NPM versus port count for UDT, for example. It makes it much easier on that side.
And I guess to this question, it doesn't ask specifically, but I'm not sure we didn't touch on it quite, or if I did, I must have missed that bit. So it's the scalability piece, right? So you have the ability to add as many polling engines as you see fit, which I think is one key one to maybe touch on. The lab licensing again, which I think is another crucial one to touch on.
It's also the ability to deploy multiple servers now, so multiple main servers. So you can take your 5,000, 10,000 nodes and have a distributed deployment with EOC, and each of those then can obviously have as many polling engines, up to 100 polling engines. So the scale side now, the technical sides with the node licensing really simplifies it on that side.
So just to be clear there, of old, if we're talking about the old Orion platform, if a customer had 3 instances that he wanted to maybe not run from one site but had 3 separate systems, he'd then have to purchase 3 separate Orion systems to do that.
Correct.
But what you're saying now in the new HCO, they can still buy the 2,000 node, but then they could split that 3 times to have 3 separate instances. For example, if it was a security element that they couldn't have, it was air gapped or whatever, they then have a separate system, right?
Correct. So they'll be able to split it twice, 3 times, 5, 10, It's going to be flexible. So that flexibility is a huge part. It's not just the node licensing, that additional flexibility. And we have it in products like DPA, but now bring it into HCO.
Yeah, no, that's really good. So hopefully that answers the question. And again, if we haven't covered any of the questions or answers, again, the account managers will be in touch. So if we haven't answered the question to your liking, either reach out now or one of our engineers will follow up. One of the other questions, will Orion get the same new functionality as HCO? I think you touched on that, but maybe it's worth just touching again.
Yes, so we'll be, the Orion products will be, there's two parts with Orion products. You have the platform, and then you have the individual modules themselves. So all of those are still going to be developed. We're still adding in new features. And a lot of those features we'll be able to share with HCO. But HCO will also have additional functionality, again, linking in later on, with the SWO offering, with the cloud offering. So there's no plans to force everybody over to HCO. There's no plans to kill off all the Orion products, in 12 months' time. So the products you have now will still exist. They'll still be worked on, still be developed. What was the Orion platform, again, just part of, and we'll see this in Q3, that there will be updates to that platform to allow modules like SRM and WPM that aren't in HCO to coexist with HCO as well. So they'll all share the same platform. So what was the Orion platform will now be the SolarWinds platform.
Yeah, no, that's good. A question here again: how does the AIOps functionality work with my deployment? And I guess just clarifying that at the moment that won't work with the current platform. That will only be for the clients that are on the observability HCO.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And it's not fully released yet, but the AIOps will be cloud-based functionality that will connect in with the HCO server. So that'll be able to send a summary of data. So it's not everything about your Orion server. It's basically anonymized data that says these are the trends for this one entity, and then it's going to do machine learning on that and send back the result to the HCO server. So that's the starting point. That AIOps functionality later on will also be the basis for the SWO offering as well. Now, at some stage, will that move on-prem? It's not something we're working on at the minute, but that's these are all obviously the first iterations of the products as well. But with the approach we're taking, now that we have the framework in place, we expect and we're working on delivering new functionality pretty fast. Obviously, the last year or so, there's been more of a focus on the security side, and as we mentioned, under the hood, to help with performance, to help build the framework in place for HCO. But we will start seeing that regular cadence of more functionality updates across the portfolio, whether it's HCO, whether it's the Orion products.
Fantastic. Well, I see you at the top of the hour, but I've got one final question. If I can just squeeze this in and go in super fast mode, Michal. Can we get HCO as a service from SolarWinds, or does it need to be deployed on-prem or cloud?
It needs to be deployed on-prem or cloud. So you can deploy it in IaaS, and there's even an offering. There's options in the Azure and AWS marketplaces. So you can deploy them there. You still pay Microsoft for hosting the infrastructure, but it's basically just pre-built servers with the software installed, and it just steps through it in the configuration for the backend databases. So you manage those, whether it's on-prem or in IaaS. The SWO offering that we're working on, that will be managed by SolarWinds. So that will be hosted in a cloud, SolarWinds operated, stored in those cloud databases. So that's like other SaaS models out there. That management will shift over to SolarWinds rather than you as a customer.
But a customer could move from HCO to that service, right?
Yes, that's part of why we're looking at this Cloud Connect functionality. So long term, the idea is you could have HCO, and then over time say, look, more and more of our stuff is moving to the cloud. Let's maybe change our HCO license next year because we've moved more stuff to the cloud, but we'll now use SWO to monitor that new footprint.
Fantastic, fantastic. Well, we've just gone a minute past, so if I could just thank you, Meow, for your time. That was a great presentation. Again, I still seem to learn every time I hear from you. So thank you for that. I'm hoping all the clients did as well. So from myself, Glenn Kershaw, thank you very much for everyone for attending. I hope you enjoyed the session. And again, as Helen alluded to earlier on, if you can please fill out the questionnaire following on from the webinar, it just again enables us to ensure that the webinars are hitting the points and the steps and requirements that you have from them. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.